Hey, what's going on, beautiful jellyfish? It's Tracy. Thanks for hanging out today. We're going to be doing deck building tips part 3. I've got my tea, which I don't think I'm actually going to drink in this video because it's like way too hot. I put it in the microwave for like a little bit extra longer so then I don't have to re-put it in the microwave. Does that make sense? Anyone who knows tea maybe knows what I'm talking about. But anyways, I've done a ton of deck building tips. This is part 3, but I've also done like other videos that weren't like part 1, part 2, part 3. So if you just are like, I want to like watch all the videos and deck building tips, there's a tip playlist, go ham. There's a lot of stuff that you can watch in there. But these were a couple things that I jotted down, things that I feel like can be really beneficial to you if you are trying to tweak your EDH decks. I guess these could work in other things, but I'm an EDH player, so mainly these are EDH things. So the first thing I want to talk about is having a variety of removal. This is so important. Here's what I mean. You want board wipes, right? I.e. like Wrath of God effects. You definitely want these. These are really important. Even if your deck is like, oh my god, I like don't want these because it's gonna blow up my board. Like, no, you still want these. You definitely do, because what if you're in an instance where people are like cherry picking your creatures and then you don't have any creatures and everyone else has big boards and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to deal with their board. But all you have are like other things. But you also want cards like Crush Contraband. I really like this card a lot. I think it's very strong because this gets rid of artifacts and enchantments and it exiles. This is super important. So you want destroy effects, you want exile effects, you want creature removal, you want spot removal, you want board wipes. You just want like all of the variety of kinds of removal that you can have. So this is really, really important. I feel like I see sometimes people building decks and they only have like one specific, like they have like 5 board wipes and it's like, that's great, but like where's your individual singular removal, where's your exile? Having a variety, super important. Would recommend How to Be a Better Deck Builder 101, that. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is having multiple win conditions. So let's just say you're playing a deck and you have a variety of like 1/1 creatures, like I don't know, goblins or something like that. And you have like no anthem effects, so they're all like literally just 1/1s. They've got no bonuses. I don't really know how you do that because like a lot of the goblins like buff each other, but let's just say, hypothetical situation, you just have 1/1s. Someone blows up the board. Oh boy, that's not good. So you want to have a variety of win conditions. Goblins actually probably were the best example for that, but like you want to have like little dudes and you want to have like big dudes, and you might even want to have an infinite combo. If you're not up for infinite combos, I totally understand, but you basically want to have like a variety of creatures where you have some that are like lower CMC, but like sometimes some people when they deck build are like, I don't really care about like mana dorks or like cards that draw me cards. Like, let's just take the card like Elvish Visionary, for example. Some people may like not want to run that because they're like, it only does one thing. But I run this card in Tassiger and I really like it, and I also run it in Rune as well, which I really like because you can blink it with Rune, which is really good in Tassiger. You can recur it back, but these cards are really important, but it's also really important to have like those really, really big dudes like Rune Scar Demon. This is a really great creature because not only does it tutor something, but it's casually a 6... Is it a 6/6 or is it a 5/5? I think it's a 6/6. Pretty sure. There will be an image up here about what which power totus the card is, but anyways, I can kill people. I could potentially kill people with the 1/1 in, but I can also, it's much easier to kill with this, and it's also got evasion because it's got flying, so having a variety of win conditions is super important, and have a backup plan. Like, plan A is like, this is your perfect scenario, but then also have like a plan B and like a plan C. Okay, number 3. Honestly, this is a flaw that I see in a lot of people, is that they just like, they playtest the deck and they don't like figure out what cards like don't work. Like some people are like, oh, like the deck sucks, and like don't figure out like what's wrong with it. And it's like, no, like get to the bottom of like why that deck was flawed and like what ways it can be improved. So like for example, like I built my Tesa deck, which you guys haven't seen a deck tech on, and I've had this deck for a couple of months now, and if you've been following my channel, you know, when I build a deck, I don't just build the deck and then put it out on YouTube. I refine the deck a lot before I put it out there. And I've been tweaking and toying with Tesa a ton because I've been trying to find like how I want this deck to go. I also did this deck with my friend Chuck, who the deck was done a couple of weeks ago. If you want to check that that channel out, the new Tesa, and I don't want to like copy his deck, so I don't want to run like everything he's done, but I took a lot of inspiration from that, and I also got a bunch of new cards and stuff. So anyways, I was like, I was really frustrated with the deck about how it first ran, and I could have just totally scrapped the deck because it wasn't performing up to like my standards, and I have like super high expectations for myself and my deck. So I was like, I could have scrapped it, but then I figured out like, okay, what cards are not working? And I don't know if this is going to make sense, so I'm going to try my best to do this, but sometimes there are cards that you look at and you say, that's a really good card, but not in this deck. So like, I want to give the card, for example, card Sun Titan. Now, this is a really strong card, and I had this card in Tesa, and I realized that it just wasn't working. This card is really good. It's just not good in Tesa. And so I think a lot of people like have those issues when they're deck building, is they're like, but this card's good, like why doesn't it work? And it's like, it just might not be good for that deck because the whole point of Tesa is I want die triggers and I want them to trigger twice and I want tokens. And this card doesn't really do that. It recurs, which is fine, but I have other better ways to recur things. So that's like a really hard like separation type thing, and I think that's easy. And I'll talk about that actually at like the last point. But yeah, that's like a really hard thing, I think, to wrap your head around when you're deck building, but I think it's a really important bit of feedback. And this actually like segues pretty nicely into the fourth thing, which is like jot cards down that just don't work or have like a mental memory. But if you're like playing a game and a card is just not working, it's super dead, it's not doing anything for you, maybe like write that card down, and maybe not like right away take it out, but like play another couple of games for it. Maybe like play 2 or 3 games and be like, okay, this card underperformed in X, Y, and Z situations. This card's probably not working very well. So that is, I think, really important because if your head is like mine, it's a box of cats. So I just like I have so many things going on where I'm like, did I say I wanted to take that card out? I don't remember. So I like have to write like millions of lists everywhere. So I'm always like writing down like what things I don't like. I'm actually pretty good. I for some reason this like sticks in my memory where I can like actually remember cards that I'm like, I don't like that card, I want to take it out. But I do these things like all the time. And I guess kind of like as a sub note with that, like what I kind of do is I have a list of every magic card that I want, which is pretty insane and took a lot of time, let me tell you. This was definitely a day project, but like I pretty much wrote down all the cards that I want, which is really useful because if you're in an instance where you're like, oh, I want to take this card out because it's not working, I can just go and look at that list and it's super easy. I did it first on Tapped Out and then I transferred all the stuff from Tapped Out on there, which just so it's in a Google Doc and it makes it so easy. And it's a living working doc, so I can always edit it when I get cards that I want. A lot of them are foils, but a lot of them are like cards that if this card doesn't work, this is kind of like my backup plan. Like I want to get this card. Or some of them are just more expensive. Some of them I'm like, hey, I don't have this card right now, I want to get it in the future. So and the last thing, I think this is really important, and I feel like some people like don't necessarily do this, but I think it's really helpful, is if you're like, if one issue that you're facing in your deck building is you're like, oh my god, my curve is like so high. So one thing you can do that I think really helps is lay your whole deck out like on the floor and separate it by like CMC. And then I also put colors. I don't really know what that means. Oh yeah, I guess like, so if you're having like a 2-color deck, maybe put like all of those. I don't know if that's actually, I guess that matters for like lands. Like if you're also finding the issue of your CMC is too high, or you're finding the issue where you're like, I'm not drawing, like I have too many, say you're doing like white black and you're like, I'm drawing too many like, I don't have enough black cards, like I don't have enough black lands, then you can like tweak that. So I think like that's something that's really important, is like laying your deck out, because that can help with a lot of issues. It can also like, one thing too is like, say you were taking out a lot of like mana acceleration and you found yourself like, oh my god, I can never cast my stuff by like turn 3, like what's the issue? And you're like, oh my god, I don't have like any mana acceleration. It's really different when you're like peeling through your deck, like when you're just holding it, compared to when you're laying it out and you're visually just looking at the whole thing. I think that's really important. It's even really different when you're like looking at it Tapped Out. I know Tapped Out does the thing where it highlights all the cards. It's not the same. It's you need to like lay it down and like look and like count stuff and be like, oh my god, I have no removal. And then you look at your instance and you're like, oh my god, I have 1 card that removes things. Like I need more cards that do that. So I think that's everything I wanted to say. Yeah, guys, that is it. Those were 5 additional tips to deck building. Like I said, got a ton of these playlists if you want to like check them all out. There's a lot of like really good stuff in there. Things that I didn't talk about in this video that I talked about in other videos and things like that. I think that was pretty much all that I wanted to say in this video, but I hope you guys found this helpful, and I will see you in my next video.